guys, today I'm doing a very exciting review on the Lorac Dazzling Dozen 2 Limited Edition Eyeshadow Collection. I feel like because it's Lorac and it's limited edition, it's basically, you can get it on Ulta's website until it sells out, because then it won't be available anymore. I feel like I'm now going to make that joke every time Lorac releases something limited edition, because for those of you who don't know, the whole thing that happened with the Mega Pro palette, they basically made a certain amount and they were like, oh no, we're out of them, sorry, tough toenails. So, you know, I don't know if this is the same case or not with this particular product, but anyways, let's just get into the review. So, for those of you who clicked on this video hoping to see a comparison between the Dazzling Dozen 2, which is this bad boy right here, and the Dazzling Dozen 1, I'm sorry to say, that's not what you're going to get in this video. I didn't even know the Dazzling Dozen collection was a thing. I looked it up. It came out in fall of 2013, and I did not check to see if any of these eyeshadows are repeats. I will put in the description box below, though, if any of the eyeshadows that are in this collection were also in the first collection. I don't know, but check the description box because I will have to look that up later on. This is the Lorac Dazzling Dozen 2 eyeshadow collection. I got mine at Ulta for $39. It is an Ulta exclusive. So, if you do not have an Ulta store near you and you really wanted to get your hands on this, you could always order online. So, basically, I'm going to read the little back description, and then they have 3 different looks that you could do with this little set, which is neato. This is the Get Stunning Eyes with Lorac's Dazzling Dozen 2 eyeshadow collection. This extensive eyeshadow collection contains 12 individual eyeshadows in our silky smooth, highly pigmented, and long-lasting pro eyeshadow formula. Whether you're just starting your Lorac obsession or adding to it, these best-selling sparkle, shimmer, and matte shades will keep you stocked up with gorgeous, radiant color. How to use. Use wet or dry with an eyeshadow brush to shade, shadow, line, and define. Now, I've not tried these wet. I do not use eyeshadow wet really hardly ever. So I can't, that's another thing I can't do in this review. Not only can I not compare it to the first Dazzling Dozen, but I cannot mention whether or not these would perform well wet. I've heard that Lorac Pro eyeshadows do perform well wet though, so I mean, we'll go with that, but my personal experience is I have never tried these eyeshadows wet. So for those of you who are not familiar with Lorac, I feel like Lorac has 2 different formulations. I will use 2 of the Lorac palettes I have as a demonstration. So first we have the Lorac Pro palette, which is quite popular and quite famous and quite amazing. These eyeshadows are so creamy and pigmented and just like super crazy pigmented. Like, I don't know how else to put them besides crazy pigmented. Then you have eyeshadows that are in the Lorac Unzipped. These are not the same as the Pro formula. These eyeshadows are still very pigmented, but not to the creaminess and pigmentation as the Lorac Pro palettes. I have the Pro 1 and 2 palette, and I do not own the second Unzipped palette. I just have the first one. So this one, the eyeshadows are still very pigmented and creamy, just not quite as creamy as the Pro formula. Now what I noticed, oh, I almost dropped that palette, that would have not been fun. Anyways, these eyeshadows do have the Pro formula. I will be doing swatches of each of them. Yes, I did try them. I did take them out of the box, but I've kept them in the box in like this, you know, I kept them in the little sleeve that comes in here just because I thought it looked cute and I thought it would look fancy for the review. But I have tried these shades. I have worn most of them on my eyes. Some of them I have not because I do not have an occasion to wear dark green or dark blue. So I have not worn those on my eyes. But the ones I have worn on my eyes, which are pretty much all the others, are beautifully pigmented. They blend wonderfully. They are just all around really nice pigmented eyeshadows and very much so up to Lorac standards. So let's just jump into this video. So it comes in this little sleevey thing like this, and all of the eyeshadows are 0.05 ounces or 1.5 grams, and they all come in this little plastic packaging that says Lorac, and you just twist it open, and voila, there's your eyeshadow. Now, before I do any swatches, I will do swatches towards the end of the video, towards the end of my review, I should say. The pros and cons of this palette. Pros to this palette, the eyeshadows are all beautifully pigmented, and you do have some pops of color in there, some darker shades and some lighter shades for those of you who like some versatility. I think this is a great set. Downside is, it is $39. I think it's personally a great value, but for those of you who are just starting out, I wouldn't recommend spending the $39 for this set because it is a little bit more money. You could just spend an extra $3 if you're a beginner and get the Pro palette instead, because I feel like that's more beginner friendly because there's more neutrals in that palette. Another downside to this palette is when you see the swatches, you will notice the shade selection here. It's a nice shade selection. There's some lighter shades, some deeper shades, mostly matte, a couple of shimmer. A couple of shades that have a little bit of sparkle, but they aren't like chunky glitter falling all over my face sparkle. But the shade selection, these eyeshadows, if they were in a palette form, I probably would not like the palette that much. Let me explain why. Now, these eyeshadows are great. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But you do have you have three matte light shades, and then you have some deeper shades here at the bottom, some colors. And then you have like a more pinky kind of lid shade, a more golden kind of shimmery lid shade. You could use them really anywhere on your eye, but that's what personally I would use them for. I'm actually wearing the gold on my lid right now, which again, I'll show you in swatches, but there's only like one transitioning shade. There is not a matte black. So there are certain aspects to this palette, like if you want to buy this for somebody as like a gift, I would not buy this for a beginner in makeup just because it's very difficult to use this set alone to create looks. I think that these eyeshadows are really nice for accompanying other palettes. In maybe you have a palette that doesn't have a matte cream, or you want to use a shimmery black but that palette doesn't have it, or maybe you want to use a matte plum color and that palette doesn't have it. This would be great for that, but as far as creating looks with just this set, I find that I'm doing like the same looks when I use this palette. Again, I'm only wearing one of the shades on my lids right now, which I will show you in the swatches. And another issue is storage. These, you could keep them in this box, but that's like super bulky and like not convenient. There are 12 single eyeshadows though. For those of you who don't know, I store my makeup in like the 3-drawer containers from the Container Store. I have to dedicate an entire drawer just to these shadows just because they will take up a lot of room in storage. So if you do not have that much storage, you might want to keep them in this box just because it is 12 single eyeshadows, so you know, it's a pretty decent amount. So, those are like the pros and cons. Overall, I really like this set. I think this is a good recommendation for people, or I do recommend this for people that want some extra eyeshadows to add to their collection, or maybe want some certain specific colors that your certain eyeshadow palettes don't have. This is good. These eyeshadows are good for accompanying other eyeshadow palettes, not so much using the set alone on its own. That's being repetitive. But yeah, anyways, so that's my quick little review on it, and now let's just get into the swatches. So first shade up I have is the shade Blanc. This is a matte, kind of a whitish, more of a yellowish, creamy color. So that is the shade Blanc. It's kind of hard to see on my very, very fair skin. So that is Blanc. Next shade up we have is Bone. This one is a little bit more pink toned. I found that this one to be a little bit more creamier than Blanc. I don't know why that is, but it is a little bit more creamy. So that is Bone. It's a little bit more pink toned than Blanc. Then we have the shade Soft Pink, and by the way, those two shades are both matte. Soft Pink is also a matte shade. This is more of a lighter pink. This one is especially creamy. I noticed that some of these do kick up a little product, as many pigmented shades can do. If you have the Lorac Pro palette, you're familiar with when you dip your brush into them, sometimes excess gets kicked up. The shade I have is no, this is not Gilded. This is Caramel. This is a nice, kind of a warm, light brown. It reminds me of MAC's Soft Brown. So that is Caramel. Next shade we have is Rose. None of these shades, by the way, I have in the Lorac Pro or the Lorac Pro 2. I don't know if these shades are available in any other Lorac palettes, but none of these shades are available in either of the Pro palettes. Some of these shades are similar to shades in the Pro palette, but none of them are, you know, exactly the same. So this is the shade Rose. Really pretty, kind of a pinky, shimmery, almost a little bit metallic rose shade. That is a swatch of that one. Really beautifully pigmented. As you can tell, these eyeshadows are just fantastic. And when you see some of the darker shades, you guys are just gonna freak out because they're so nice. Then we have the shade Acai. I love this shade. This is like a deep plum. Oh my gosh, plummy purple. Super buttery too. Look how beautiful. It looks almost a little bit brown, but yeah. That is Acai. Super pigmented and amazing. This one is an incredible, like, eyeshadow to smudge on your lower lash line, you know, for those of you who like eyeshadow on your lower lash line, but you don't want to wear it like black because it's like, you know, panda bear eyes. Next shade is Gilded. This is the shade I'm wearing all over my eyelid today. Beautiful, kind of a bronzy golden shade, very shimmery. So this is the shade Gilded. Really pretty, metallic and beautiful. Next up, we have the shade Denim. Now, this is one of the eyeshadows I haven't worn on my eyes yet. It is a really nice blue. It comes off a little more subtle than it looks in the pan. It looks like quite intense, but okay, maybe it doesn't look that much more subtle. This eyeshadow actually, it's appearing brighter on camera. I don't know if it's the lighting, but this eyeshadow reminds me a lot of Blueberry Swirl from the Too Faced Semi-Sweet palette. If you have that, this is like a little bit more of an intense version of that. Really pretty though. It's a more wearable blue, I find, rather than like a bright teal or anything, you know what I mean? So that is Denim, and I love the names. I think they're just fantastic. The other shade I haven't worn on my eyes yet is Sage. This one is a really nice, highly pigmented, shimmery green. So that is Sage. Yeah, so that one's super fun. I also forgot to mention the Denim shade has a little bit of a sheen to it. It's not totally matte, it's not really shimmery, it's more of a satin with a little bit of a sheen to it. The shade I have is like my favorite shade in this set. It is a taupe, but with like a little bit of a champagne tint to it. It's probably one of my favorite taupes I've ever come across, and I love taupe eyeshadow. This is the shade Ecru, E-C-R-U, that's the name of it in case I'm pronouncing that wrong, but this shade is so buttery. This one's probably the creamiest of them all. Beautiful taupe. Like, oh my god, you guys. So freaking nice. Look at that. It's so pretty. Okay, it doesn't really look that special, but when you blend it out, like, look. Look how pretty. It's so nice for the crease all over your lid. I've actually worn this all over my lid to school, and it's not too dramatic, and I'm not one to wear black smoky eyes to school every day. So this one is a really pretty shade. Oh, I dropped the lid. One sec. The shade we have here is Storm. This is a deeper, this is more of a purple, where the shade I showed before, Akai, is more of a plum. This one is more of a deep purple. So that is Storm. Deep, very kind of smoky, almost a little bit of a charcoal-y sort of purple. And the last and final shade that is in this set is the shade Blacklight. This one is a very pretty black. There is a little bit of a golden sparkle to it. As you can tell, it is sparkle, not shimmer. But I find that it transfers really nicely on the eyes, and honestly, it doesn't come across being matte. But the black sparkle, I mean, the gold sparkle is not super noticeable. You can tell in the swatch, but like I've worn this on my eyes before, and it hasn't, you know, it looks like a matte black. Maybe you can see one or two flecks of gold, but to me it's more of a matte black than a black with like a golden shimmer. So, or golden sparkle, I should say. So I hope this review was helpful. If you guys are picking this palette up, let me know down below. Or not palette, I'm sorry, the set. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, or if you'd like me to use any of these shades in a makeup tutorial, let me know down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!